Morning. How we doing today? Now I had another video up. I'll try to stick a still shot of a stand I quickly made for this, just to clamp into like a working table. And I found out I was using it a lot more once it was clamped down, but the table was big. It was always getting in my way. So I wanted to make a little more portable design where I could carry around, stick it in the corner when not in use. So I was going to make a video of it. I thought I would, and then I was just going to plan it out. It was just going to be a quick plan, then I was going to set up and make a video. Well, next thing I know, I was finishing up and painting it and realized I never even took a picture of the process or anything, so I posted a few pictures on Facebook on it, and a few people asked to some measurements, some plans, how I did it. So I figured I'd recreate it, and it's pretty simple, and it'll take me no time to recreate it, and I'll throw in some measurements. But honestly, every piece of wood here came out of the scrap pile. I didn't cut one piece the size. I just used what I got, fit the pieces. I grabbed pieces that fit my idea. That's why I wasn't even planning on building it. I was just going to make some rough, usually what I do is make some rough cuts, some pieces, so I get a general idea how it looks and feels. Then I, revamp what I used to make it better. But this one came out not perfect, but it came out good enough that I used it all. And I usually would just take it apart and show you what I did, but I made this one. This is my third design, making a table for this saw, and ended up making it semi-permanent. I could take it apart, but it's more of a pain to take it apart to show you what I did than just to make another one. So let me drink some more coffee here, and I'll bring you along for the process. Okay, bring you back here. Like I said, on the one I did, I just used scrap cut-offs in my pile, so the measurements weren't important, but I did some redesigning here just to make life simpler, and you could even make it simpler if you want. Alright, I grabbed another piece of scrap out of the pile, and this one will fit. So the base on mine is 17 inches long, and the base is 16 inches long, and the upright 17 inches long, and the cross piece is 14 inches long. So I measured this piece of wood, and that was a few inches short here. So what I did is I redesigned it. So make the base, instead of being, 15 inches long, we'll make the base 16. The upright, if you look at it, we have plenty of room, so I cut the upright at the same size, 16 inches. And I was going to just do another 16 inches if this piece of wood was going to be fine. I was just going to do them all the same size, but like I say, a couple inches short. So the cross piece on mine is 14 inches, which just works out, and it seems like the perfect cross piece on it for stability and size. So I kept it at 14. And then you're going to have to do a cutout right in the center of the 14, a 7-inch center, of course. I just, laid another 2x4 right against it and made the mark for that I have to cut out. So basically 3 cuts I have to make, and I'll show you that. Okay, I just have a typical Ryobi, I don't even know what size this is. It's been so long since I bought a 10-inch compound cross cut saw. That I like it because it has a good old laser beam to line up your marks. So I'll just cut the board into 3 pieces here. You got the two 16-inch pieces, and then the 14-inch. And honestly, what I did when I made mine, I just used a crosscut saw to cut the notch in the 2x4, which isn't a safe thing to do or a wise thing to do. But like I said, I was just going to use it as a setup piece, a proof of concept. So I won't do that on camera. I'll bring you along, and this is usually in my basement too, but because I'm still really finishing up the shop up here, that's why this is still up here. I'm still using it, building up the shop. But I'll bring you down to the woodworking shop in the basement, and I'll cut this correctly in the bandsaw. I do have a little 10-inch bandsaw up here, but when I set up the new machine, I moved all my other equipment that was on that bench where the new machine is, and I kind of blocked in my bandsaw, so it would just be easier going downstairs to cut it on the full-size machine. Yeah, there's the little 10-inch bandsaw back there that I have up here, and you can see I have all my other stuff that was on that bench, blocking it. I haven't cleaned up here since I made the big move for the new machine, so this is my corner. So I'll take a walk downstairs to use the other bandsaw. Okay, downstairs. And basically this is the big 12-inch stand-up bandsaw. Cut in there. Bring you back upstairs. While I'm down here, I figured this is my lathe project that's been put on hold since I bought my new machine. It's old Seneca Falls lathe that I had to redesign the headstock, and then my motor that I had running it, as I was setting up the headstock, burnt out, so I got my old motor from my little Atlas lathe down here that hook up and continue getting this thing going. But I had it turning. I turned some brass, the auto feed and everything was working, and then my motor died. I still have to do a little adjustment on the bronze bushings. I did adapt bronze bushings. If you haven't seen any, I have a couple videos up there. You want to check it out. But I made a custom headstock spindle from you can see the old headstock back there from a South Bend lathe. So I'm going to get back to this sooner or later. I'm probably going to bring this upstairs, but you have to take it all apart. It's pretty heavy. And put it on the back side of the new machine, and once it's upstairs I'll work on it a little bit more. Down here I don't want to work on it anymore. There's another little thing I picked up, a little motor with a drill chuck. It's like a sander attachment. I picked that up for cheap money. It works. So I was going to adapt that into some sort of sander, wire brush attachment, something like that. Okay, back upstairs. So I got my three cusses. What the hell was I trying to say? 3 pieces of wood. I think it was cut-offs and cuts and pieces. But I am from Massachusetts, so I do speak funny. So you got the 2 16-inch pieces. One you mark it 8-inch on center. That's your base. And basically want to drill out your holes for your stand, and basically I just drill 2. I never drill basically blind into 2x4s because the grain is, you know, pretty soft and will just split. So I always pre-drill. And what I'm using is basically 3-inch or 4-inch. This box has a little bit of both in there, but 3-inch drywall screws. And on mine, that's the one I built already, is semi-permanent because I hot melt glue the joints too. I recommend, you know, you can use regular wood glue. I like hot melt because it dries quicker. Just so the joints, you know, don't vibrate. And, you know, like I say, the 2x4s are soft, so the screws will loosen up. So that's why I just hot melt glue all the joints, and it'll never come loose. And if you do take it apart, hot melt glue is great. Take a cheap razor blade knife, heat it up with the torch, and it slices right through it, and you break it apart. Or you can even use like a heat gun or a blow dryer and warm up the joints. They'll pull apart, but just, you know, long thin piece of metal, heat it up, and it slices right through it like butter. So that's why I use it. You can take it apart easy. So you center drill your holes, then you stand. You get your screws in there. I was using my work clamp table. You know, it had this clamped on the table, which those, you know, Black & Decker workmates. They're great because you put this flush with the work surface, and when you clamp it down, it squares off the head, so you don't have to worry about squaring it or anything. But this is just a demonstration here. Here's your base. Then the section you cut out. Same thing, you want to drill a couple holes, you know, right in the middle. On the side. Yeah, you can use 3 inches is perfect, probably 2.5. Would be a little bit better, but they don't poke through if I remember correctly. I say I'm throwing this together quickly, so it's not perfected. I should have cleaned up that cut a little bit more to get it, you know, get it sit perfectly here, but I was also on a piece of sheet metal here too. So let's do that. Enough room here. Yeah, so clean up this cut a little bit more. But basically this is how I did it yesterday. This is like my proof of concept. I had this top piece here already mounted to the saw. That was my last video. I'll try to post some pictures from there. I'll bring you in to show you that. So you need your saw, and this will work with the Bowers, the Milwaukees and everything. You have to, you know, it's how you mount it. So where you can put something to mount. A lot of people mount, you know, the easiest places on the heads. You make a bracket, 4 bolts there, there's 4 bolts here, and there's 4 bolts in the back. You know, the handle. You see some people make a, you know, out of aluminum or wood. They'll make a mount where this goes because there's screws on the outside, but it comes very close to the blades here, so it's pretty tough to make it quick and easy. So I looked at this. I was going to make a bracket up to go off these bolts on the outside, 2 up top, and connect a piece of wood there, but then these 2 bolts that hold the rear guide, you know, protective sleeve for the blade, there's 2 bolts there. And so I went hunting through all my hardware, Found these, they're double wide 2-inch shelf brackets, or angle brackets, 90-degree brackets. And they look like they would work, so I took these apart. And what I get rid of lock washers. I believe that lock washers do not do anything, especially the cheap, teeny little ones. So what I do is good old blue Loctite, and I just Loctite everything. If you're worried about anything vibrating loose, what I do is I take out the squeezy end that always plugs up, and you tip it upside down, and inside the tube it's like a little reservoir. You tip the screw in, and it puts on the perfect amount. No squeezing out, no clogged tube all the time, and nice and easy. So you take off the little lock washer that comes with it. I still keep the regular flat washer, and there's still plenty of meat on the factory screw, plenty long. And just screw it back in there. And at first I was concerned about the corner of the bracket being too close to the wheel, but it clears it. I was just going to round it off, but once I did a trial run, and I've used it already, and it clears. Clearance is clearance, doesn't matter how much or how little. I don't over snug them down because you don't want to, it's aluminum housing, so you don't want to strip the threads out. So that's why I use the Loctite. Snug them down. And these, I think, I'm going to just leave these on here. I don't think you have to take these off. Either you take these 2 bolts off and leave the brackets attached to the wood, which would be the best sense because there's 6 bolts holding the brackets onto the wood. But then you take the chance of stripping out these holes if you're taking it off and on and off a lot. So, wood, you can always replace the 2x4 and new wood screws. So I think that'd be the way to do it. And then, like I say, clearance over here too. It's a lot more clearance on this side. And they're a little bit off. They're not perfectly in the same plane. So I just angle it a little bit. So, straight line between the 2x4 connects. That's all that matters. And then, let me get rid of the box here. Little case that is way too big. And you get your 2x4 and you just, whatever screws you use, just little 1 5/8 drywall screws. So I've had this together once already. Yeah, find a place to put this in. But that's what I was doing yesterday, and it turned out to be work so good that I just used what I cut up there. But I painted everything, so it's hard to see here. But here we go. I have one bracket left over. So these are 2-inch double wide corner braces, 2.5-inch double wide corner braces. And I don't know if I'll show up the part number, but they're ever built. I think these are from Home Depot. The part number is 151557, but they're 2.5 double wide corner braces. And basically on the saw here, let me see if I can get a bit of close up. I mounted to where on the back side of the saw there's a, zoom out here, I'm bad with the camera when I'm facing backwards. There's a saw guide that goes between the 2 cutting heads. It's held on by 2 Allen bolts, and this bracket bolts up perfectly to that bolt. You don't have to modify it, you just take the bolt off. I took the lock wash out to give that extra little clearance for the thickened metal, and just used a regular washer and Loctite. And it clears the, you can see it clears the cutting head, so it bolts right into place, and there's one on the bottom that just hold the guide in. So that's how I mounted the saw. And they're not perfectly lined, they're a little bit off-centered, so when you put them on, you just snug them up a little bit. Then you bolt down to the 2x4 and then you snug up the bolts. And then I used so I only have one of these brackets left. I had another 2-pack. They come in 2 packs, but you can see another one here. It's painted, but you can see it. I use that to use as a support for the table underneath of it. So that supports the bigger table. I was going to do a small table, but this table is a piece of cut off I had downstairs. So I didn't even trim it, nothing. That was the size board. That's what I used. And then, so it's basically pretty easy. Like I said, I'll try to post pictures from my other video showing when I built this support, because I used the same board. I never even cut it. And that's it. And what I did after I assembled it, like I said, I take the camera off the stand here. I haven't glued the base of the saw to the 2x4. I cut it, I basically set it down so it sits for support, sits on there, but I hot glued it around just for a little support, no vibration. And you can see the hot melt glue on the joints. And there's that other bracket with the bolt, and it goes to that guide. So it's sturdy. And the saw doesn't move. And that's it back, like you say, I didn't spend any time measuring anything. I just went in the table. I don't know if we can see it. I used the 2 factory holes where the 2 factory is, and I just cut the slot. But let's see if I can lay it down there. Right along all this edge, there's a gap there, and it's where the bracket is, so it's supported fine. That's why I put the bracket there, supported fine, but there was a gap right here, and I just filled that in with hot melt glue. I say, if you ever take this apart, you can just slice, heat up a knife, an old, butter knife, razor blade knife, and you'll slice right through there. So I did that for support. And to change the blade, I know I'll have to take off this bracket, which is nothing, 1 bolt, 3 bolts on the wood, take off this bracket, 1 bolt, 3 bolts on the wood, and I'm pretty sure the blade will slide out once those brackets are out of the way. Then I don't even think I have to take off the table. I'm designed enough that you'll be able to angle the blade backwards and slide it out the back corner here. So you have to slide it in and around, but you have to swing this blade around, but it's a blade, it's flexible, so I think I'll be able to change this blade without taking the table off. That was my theory. That's why I hot melt glued the table down. So I wanted the support, I didn't want vibration, and this thing is perfectly square. The blade is square. I squared the table off. This thing is dead on, so I wanted to keep it that way. So I figured the more support the better. So I'll find out in the next, it's a fresh blade. I just put it on, so it should last a while. I mostly only cut aluminum on it. And if I do have to take the table off, like I said, it's no more than an extra minute to melt that glue. Propane torch, heat up a old butter knife, and it'll slice right through, and it pops right off. So that's it. Let me, like I said, I was going to make another table, but the table is, however you want to make it. I'll show you. What else I was going to make at first, what I was going to make the table out of. I had this piece of scrap chrome plated steel. I think it was from like a door kicker, at the bottom of the door. And I was going to basically mount that as a table. I figured that'd be wide enough for what I usually cut on it. But I was like, I had like a little bigger table, and I had another big piece of sheet metal. Oh, I have this piece of sheet metal, but I use that as my dry erase board when I do a project. And but I had another piece of metal that was a little thicker, which would be nice because you have to countersink the screw holes. So that's another thing. You have to use a pretty thick piece of metal so you can countersink the screws. This piece I was going to mount basically directly over, pretend there's a piece of metal here. I was going to basically mount that over the factory support and leave the screw holes open and just have the table stick out like this and use, one-handed here. And that's the factory support. So I was going to bring it all the way forward. Then I was going to epoxy like the table right on there and just go right there so you can still get to the two screws. And that was going to be my table. It'd be on both sides of the blade, of course. I was going to slice a cut down the middle, but it wouldn't stick out, probably almost as far as this table. But you'd have to epoxy it or weld it to that table, and welding it, and you're going to get a lot of deflection, warping. In epoxying, if I was going to do a small size, it'd be fine to epoxy something this size. Anyway, that was my plan originally. But I know I had a piece of wood down there that would be fine. This is that high density fiberboard. It's water resistance. It's all epoxy and high pressure, so it's really good. It's stable. It doesn't expand, doesn't contract, doesn't warp. It's not perfect. You can't, throw a 100-pound piece of metal on there or break it. But look at the size saw, and that's that's what you're using it for, smaller stuff. So I like that, high density fiberboard because it doesn't move. It stays perfectly, straight, flat, and it's pretty strong. So enough blabbing. That's the saw. Let me edit this video.